So I think the most important thing is monthly donors really want to be known. They want you to know that they are putting aside dollars every single month to support your mission, and they're really looking for your organization to reciprocate that love.
I'm Rich Frazier.
And I'm Russ Phaneuf.
Welcome to the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange, a podcast from IPM Advancement.
We believe strong nonprofits can change the world, and our goal with each episode is to bring you insightful conversations with thought leaders from the nonprofit sector.
Let's dive in. Hey, Russ, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Rich?
Oh, I'm well, thanks. Hey, and thanks for covering for me last month with Josh.
Absolutely.
An excellent job, an excellent podcast.
Thank you.
So I got an email today from the Academy Drum and Bugle Corps. You may remember I'm on the board of directors. And I got this message from the Academy telling me that my monthly gift has been processed.
Okay.
And I got excited because today's podcast is all about Drum and Bugle Corps.
Wait a minute.
No, wait. We're going to take a step back. Today's topic is all about monthly donors, those awesome people who make those automatic recurring donations to their favorite organizations, the sustainers of excellence,
yes,
the monthly donors. And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes.
And we have some awesome guests. Our guests today are Melissa Rutan from the American Red Cross and Kathryn Baccash from To Write Love on Her Arms. And I'm going to ask each one of them to share a little bit about their organizations and what they do in their organizations. Melissa, why don't we start with you?
Thanks so much for having me, Rich and Russ. So my role at the American Red Cross, I'm the senior associate on the consumer fundraising and marketing team. And what that means is we're really focused on outreach to those mid-level donors, those mass group of donors. And we outreach to them through mass marketing efforts across different channels. So whether that's direct mail, email, online, digital, you name it. And monthly donors are a core part of that program. And really my focus is to really grow that program and maintain them as well. And the Red Cross as a whole, if you aren't familiar, our mission is to really prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies. So whether that's a disaster that happens, making sure people are able to get to a shelter, making sure people have life-saving blood products when they need it the most, helping military families and those who are deployed with support and comfort, and then also making sure if there's an emergency, there's someone nearby trained in CPR and first aid. And really, it's only possible through the help of our donors and volunteers that this mission really comes to life.
Awesome.
And we love the American Red Cross.
Yes.
Thank you, Melissa. And Kat, welcome to the show. Tell us about To Write Love on Her Arms and what your role is there.
Yeah, so unique name, To Write Love on Her Arms. We're a mental health nonprofit. We support people who are struggling with things like addiction, depression, self-injury, and thoughts of suicide. So we connect people to help and present hope to those who are struggling. And we do that in a myriad of ways. We have a Find Help tool that you can search your zip code in all of America and be connected with reduced cost and affordable mental health resources. We have a lot of international resources and a treatment and recovery program, which we just celebrated. We've invested over $3 million into that program, which is group counseling, scholarships to get people in to sit across from a counselor.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that was a big milestone. We've been happy to celebrate. Lots of great stories coming from that program. And my role on To Write Love on Our Arms is I am our Director of Supporter Marketing and Development, which is also an interesting title. We're a small team, so a lot of us wear a lot of different hats, but basically what that means is I'm just in charge of curating the experience for our largest group of supporters, which is our donors and fundraisers and our online store customers, just curating the experience they have with us, telling their story, helping tell our story through those channels. And one of those is our Tuloha Blue monthly donor program, which I created and have led for the last 6 years.
Well, that's a good segue. Let's talk about the monthly donor programs. Why and how are they important to your organizations? Kat, let's start with you.
For us, it's one of the biggest ways that our community can get involved. We don't have a lot of in-person volunteer opportunities. So when we launched this program, for them, a lot of the feedback was like, I've been waiting, for something to do to get involved with this mission and this work. And becoming a monthly donor was such a valuable thing for this audience. When we launched it, we tripled the number of monthly donors. Nice. Just because they were looking for an opportunity to support this mission in a regular way.
Wow. How about you, Melissa?
Our monthly donors are essential to delivering the life-saving mission of the American Red Cross. And we call our monthly donors Red Cross champions because that's really what they are. They're championing the Red Cross all year round. And every 8 minutes, the Red Cross responds to a disaster, whether that's a hurricane or a home fire. And it's really only with the support of these monthly donors that Red Cross volunteers are able to be there, offering comfort and hope on what could be the worst day of someone's life.
Because you're in that role with the Red Cross, I'm interested in hearing how you look at episodic giving, where something happens in the world and people respond to it because they're generous and they want to help and they want to get involved. Are you seeing people come on board right away as monthly donors, or do you have to go through this process and convince them of the value of monthly giving?
That's a great question, Russ. And it definitely is a mix. There are some people who do sign up as monthly right away during an episodic event or a large national disaster. But we do also see a really large response from the American public as generous one-time donations. And really, we couldn't respond to back-to-back disasters without this generous response of really neighbors helping neighbors.
Yeah.
And what's really important to know about the Red Cross is our work is ongoing. It's not just in the response efforts, but also in equipping communities to be prepared for the next disaster and to also recover. So that's really the case that we make for these one-time donors to then become monthly. And it's a really easy ask to make of our one-time donors since they're already committed to the mission and they already care about it since they already made a one-time gift.
Yeah. So Kat, how do you initially connect with donors? And then at what point do you ask them to become monthly donors?
A lot of our outreach that happens in person is through festivals or music events.
Okay.
We kind of started in this niche band, Paramore kind of vibe at work tour. So we have kind of continued with that experience over the years, going to a bunch of different music festivals. And it's an amazing place for us to have real honest conversations with people about mental health. So we're kind of like these scene kids out on the road having just vulnerable conversations with people.
Yeah.
And just, I think in those moments, we've heard from so many people, from long-term supporters who have been like, I saw you at Warped Tour and you saved my life. Just having a space to have an honest conversation about my mental health and know I wasn't alone. It allowed me to take the step to maybe reach out to a family member or to actually take the step to get counseling. So the people we meet out on the road, we actually end up becoming some of our longest supporters. And a lot of them are Taloha Blue members who are monthly donors. So it's those in-person moments for us that are really pivotal because not only, getting people to invest in this mission, but also to just buy in and understand what we're doing and how we're doing it and how that is applicable to them and their story.
This is wonderful because you two are in very different organizations size-wise and budget-wise. But it sounds like the common thread between both organizations is that making that human connection is so important. And that's what gets people interested, but it's also what keeps people engaged over time.
Yeah, we essentially make our monthly donor program very familial. It's very community-based. It's very as much as we can tailored to the individual with these like small touch points that make them feel seen in their journey, as well as creating like a community. It's like a club atmosphere, like you're part of this unique community, and because you all believe this, because you all have this common thread about who you are, even though you may come from different walks of life, but tying that communal aspect together, all the tones, it's very conversational. Everything that we offer to them or share with them is very community based, and it's very individual story based as well.
Melissa, I'd like to piggyback on that because clearly community is a very big aspect of what To Write Love on Her Arms does.
Yeah.
What does that sense of community look and feel like for Red Cross?
So we like to say everyone has a Red Cross story or has been touched by the mission in some way. And I really think this is because 90% of our organization is volunteers, and we're the largest volunteer organization. So you've probably interacted with the Red Cross or seen the Red Cross in action at some point in your life. And really what the joy is, and my role of being a fundraiser, is getting to connect with monthly donors and really hearing their why. Why are they supporting the Red Cross? Why have they chosen to commit to doing a monthly donation? And oftentimes it's because the Red Cross helped them or a loved one at some time. And this is really their way of giving back and paying it forward. Just an example that comes to mind is a veteran who is now fully retired, and he remembers the Red Cross helping him during his deployment. And so now he's delighted that he's able to give back and keep powering the good.
And that's really powerful. Both of you are telling really powerful stories of impact on individuals that your organizations have had. What kind of impact then do those monthly gifts have on your organizations?
Yeah, so the impact of our monthly donors is incredible. Like I mentioned, they're essential to the life-saving mission and making sure that we're able to have that ongoing support so that we're ready to respond whenever disaster strikes, and that families are really able to get the help when they need it the most. And what's really great about monthly donors too is they're showing that they're committed to your mission. And so we don't need to keep going back to them and asking again and again that they would make a donation. But instead we have the room and the space and the time to really grow a relationship with them and really have a viewpoint of it from that way.
Yeah, I liked what you were saying there, Melissa. It's fairly similar for us, like outside of, the perk of a monthly donor program, right, is this recurring, donation giving where you can kind of plan on it. It's consistent. It really allows you to fund maybe even certain aspects of certain things. But that idea that they're like your number one, they're your crew that you're going to like enlist to take action. I kind of like to refer to ours as like our hype team. Like whenever we have like a new initiative or thing we're trying to share with our audience or community, and they're kind of like the first ones to hop on and they're first ones to share it with us or join in the conversation. And I think that community that we've kind of been sharing this whole conversation is like, they're essential to your nonprofit and your mission. Like you can even ask them things that maybe you wouldn't ask another group that is a part of your community, like surveys or different things, get feedback about their experience as an overall supporter, or like when you're trying new things, they would be your test group because they have that commitment and that buy-in that's more than just like a one-time donor or someone who maybe even fundraise because they're personally investing their own dollars. They could give this to Netflix. Like they could literally, there's so many ways people can subscribe or there's so many even organizations. So they're your group, they're your community that like are just going to be like your point person.
Yeah.
I love how you sort of consider your monthly donors as your crew and how they mean more to you than just the financial component. Speaking of the financials, though, I'm curious, do your monthly donors support specific aspects of your work, or do their contributions go toward the general fund of running the organization?
We have our monthly donors supporting a very specific program. Before we launched the branded version of what we have now, we kind of asked who was ever currently giving at that time, what they wanted to support, what was meaningful to them, what would they like to see, grow or specifically support in our work. And we have a lot of different programs, and we have a lot of different campaigns that support certain programs. And so this was they all selected and picked our team being able to go out on the road. So those events I was talking about earlier, they specifically were like, we would like, to get Taloa out to as many places and spaces as we can so they can have this conversation with millions of people. And so we tailored our monthly giving program to invest into that program. And so all of our impact, all of the stories that we share with them, everything that they're communicating and how their dollar goes and where it goes to is directed to that program. That's actually been really helpful for us. We have campaigns that are general and kind of do overhead things, but this took an opportunity for us that was like, we don't really have anything invested into this besides the merchandise sales that we make at these events. And so this was like allowed us to really go to places maybe that we may not make any profit from, but we get to have some of the biggest connection points with. And so that's been essential for us in our monthly program, because a lot of other fundraising initiatives that we host kind of cover the other costs that we have as a nonprofit. So that's been instrumental for us.
Nice. It sounds like that specificity really helps with engagement, right?
Yeah.
It gives people something to focus on and to get behind. Melissa, what aspects of your mission do the Red Cross Champions support?
So they definitely support our ongoing work. A lot of nonprofits call that where it's needed most or general disaster relief. So it does give our organization the ability to really put their donation to immediate use wherever it's needed in the mission. And to just looking from a perspective of how important monthly donors are, their donations may seem small up front, but over time and collectively, monthly donors are very powerful.
There's that lifetime value.
Yes, exactly. That's the buzzword, that lifetime value that they bring. So really looking at it from that perspective, not just from a month to month.
Hi, this is Curtis Schmidt, producer of the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange, jumping in for a moment. If you're a nonprofit professional who has questions about your program, or maybe you feel like you've taken your advocacy, fundraising, or membership effort as far as you can and you need some fresh ideas, then we have a special offer for you today. NPFX podcast listeners can get a free 30-minute consultation with IPM Advancement, no strings attached, when you go to ipmadvancement.com/free. Just enter a few details, and an IPM team member will contact you to follow up. It's that easy. That website again is ipmadvancement.com/free. Thanks for listening, and we hope to talk to you soon. Now let's return to the episode.
I'd like to change gears for a second and talk about running the programs. And I think it's interesting because we have a kind of a contrast with these two different programs. I'm making some assumptions, but I think that Kat, you started your program. You started Tualoha Blue from the beginning. And then Melissa, you probably inherited your program and you're working in a program that was already established. And so I'm interested in your takes on the opportunities that you kind of came into, the challenges that you've faced, and what it's like to really either launch something or come in and make something work that's already been in existence. So Kat, can we start with you?
Yeah. Well, it was my first baby project. I was like, it was like, hey, you've been here for 2 years. Here's something you can manage and direct on your own. So personally, I was like, this is kind of nerve wracking.
Terrifying, right?
Yeah. And it's, it's not an obvious thing as a nonprofit to have a monthly donor program, but it's very impactful and very important.
Yes.
And if you don't have one, this is your sign to start one because it's amazing. So it was just me and my boss at the time who was like trying to think of how we were going to set this up. What are the main things we need to launch it? What are kind of like our dreamy ideas that we can't maybe make happen now, but like we would along the road would like to add in. And so we knew we needed it. And so we were like, all right, we're going to get the main things we need to launch it. And then from there, we'll take it on. But after it was launched, it was kind of like my thing to either grow and to nourish and figure out how to go from there. And so launching it was exciting. And then it immediately became nerve-wracking. Like, how do I continue to keep these monthly donors here?
Kat, how long did it take you to go from that initial idea to actually having a program in place?
2 months.
Wow.
I know. We made it
That's
quick.
fast.
Yes, it's very fast. We basically set like 2 weeks of devoted time to just focus on this and then like chip away at like the main things. And we have like a whole design team. We have a whole merchandise team. So creating some of those things that like we have these special thank you perks that we at different tiers that we do. So creating those kind of things were like things we already do normally. So there was just like, okay, how do we take what we do as an organization in these fundraising campaigns and then just tailor it to a monthly donor program? So we were a little ahead in that regards, but yeah, it was like, let's launch it. We surveyed, and so we knew what we wanted. And then once we got the responses back, then we just branded everything, came up with like a plan on how to do that and communicate the impact they would have, and then invest those funds into that program. And then once that was all figured out, it was just kind of skinning the like page that these people would be invited to go to and communicating like the selling points, right? Of why they should be a monthly donor.
Nice. I love it. It's so scrappy. I mean, it's like, it's very scrappy, which is very cool. Yeah. I like it. Melissa, what's it like to be in this huge organization that has an established program and that you want to make better, right? Obviously, you want to get in there and every day you want to make it better. What's it like to work in that environment?
Our champion program started about 10 years ago.
Wow.
And really, I think the major shift was looking at it not only as a way that people are giving, they're choosing a donation frequency, but looking at it as an actual group of people. And really naming it champions really allowed us to identify those people and communicate to them, and also invite other people to become a Red Cross champion. So I think no matter what size your nonprofit is, really just looking at that segment as a committed group of people and giving them a name really helps resonate and grow your program.
Yeah.
And then too, over the last 10 years, which was before my time, they've had a lot of chances to test out different things. So whether that's face-to-face fundraising or DRTV, and through that time, we've really been able to fine-tune what channels and methods of acquiring new monthly donors are really working for us and getting us the best return on investment.
I love it because the Red Cross is such a pace setter for all of this. There's a lot of smaller organizations that look to you all to see what you're doing to kind of, because you have those resources where you can test and you can see what your donors are, how your donors are responding and how they're behaving. It's wonderful because it's kind of a bellwether for the rest of the nonprofit industry.
Thanks, Russ. So I think the most important and easiest thing that any nonprofit can do is just identifying who your monthly donors are. Are you able to distinguish them in your reporting? And just from that baseline, you're then able to communicate with them and also see how they're starting their monthly gift. Did they sign up through that direct mail piece you sent? Did they sign up from that email invitation or at that event? And really, when you look at those trends, then you can really fine-tune your strategy and grow your monthly donor program.
What do you find to be the most successful communication strategies or stewardship strategies for your monthly donors?
So I think the most important thing is monthly donors really want to be known. They want you to know that they are putting aside dollars every single month to support your mission. And they're really looking for your organization to reciprocate that love. And so you don't have to come up with a very complicated strategy. I think the easiest thing to do is just customize what you're already sending out and put in thank you for your monthly support, or even for our newsletters, we'll sub out a header that says thanks for being a Red Cross champion.
Nice.
Right.
And just those small touches really make a big difference in the donor experience.
Yeah, this is the place where you probably don't want to set it and forget it if you're a fundraiser.
No. Yeah, agree with everything Melissa said. We tailor as much as we can to our monthly donors. We do refer to them as our Taloha Blue crew. Like, we try to make, at least with our communications with them, kind of this fun, very like they're talking maybe to someone. Like, our sender is Kathryn from Taloha instead of our organization's name, just to add that like extra level of like, this is different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what you're experiencing is different. And it's like, you have like a personal contact maybe with someone from the organization. And we have an email that goes out to them specifically every month. We have on our presence online is a big thing for us. So we will share what we refer to as Faces of Taloha Blue on our social media, which is like, for our supporters, it means a lot for us to share their story and even their like face on our social media, like on Instagram. And then direct mailing is not dead.
Right.
Like, our like most beloved like moments for them is like when we'll like hand write a card on their 1-year anniversary, and just say like, hey, it's been 1 year. Like, we love having you a part of this crew kind of thing. And maybe everybody's getting the same message, but that touch point feels very personal when it's handwritten.
Yeah.
And it's this like, oh my gosh, I got something in the mail. What, like 20 somethings year olds aren't getting things in the mail anymore. Or like, it's just like bills or like these like info things. And so that's been important for our organization. Cause we do live so much online. So those like in-person kind of hand moments, like handwritten moments.
I love to hear that. I love to, as an annual giving person who's been in the trenches so many years, it warms my heart to hear that people actually still open their mail and they still like getting mail. And, it's not just all about digital engagement, even though that's very important.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who sends Russ any mail.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about retention rates. What are you seeing with your monthly donors? Are they staying with you longer than other donors?
Since launching, we have 50% of our founding members still after 6 years. So, and we retain a strong percentage for at least the first year or more for our program. We do have a lot of people who will just give for 2 months, 3 months, because that's what they could at like even $10 a month. We have a lot of donors who give at like $10, $15 a month. It's kind of like our median amount. It's a lot of between 20 to 30-year-olds who are just giving what they can. Is probably our majority of donor base. So,
Melissa, how about for the Red Cross?
Yeah, so for the American Red Cross, retention is such a key metric and really important to keep an eye on. And for our monthly donors, it is higher than our one-time donors. And really what I'm looking for when looking at retention is making sure that we're not putting all of these efforts into something that's just a leaky bucket, that you're going to get a bunch of new signups and then they're going to leave you. So really focusing in on that and making sure that you address any of those major drop-off points in the giving cycle. So one of the major changes that we have made is getting those internal systems all fine-tuned, and especially just from a granular gift processing level. You want to make sure that you have really good systems in place so people's credit cards are processing correctly, and that you're able to tell when a monthly donor stops giving. And sometimes that isn't intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So really making sure that you have those internal systems in place so you're able to flag people who are lapsing.
Yeah.
And then having a strategy of how then you're going to reach out to them.
Yeah, you don't want the transaction to be a variable in the relationship, right?
Right, exactly, yeah. And so many times when we just launched a peer-to-peer text pilot for lapse donors. And so I personally have been able to send text messages to these donors who are lapsing. And
Nice.
It's so interesting to hear their responses. And a lot of times it's unintentional, or they're thankful for our work and are sad that they're not able to support it anymore. So it's just always a positive interaction with them. Also, it shows that you care, that you missed their donation, and they're not just a small drop, that they're actually making a difference, so much so that we miss them month to month.
I'm envious of your texting ability to your donors. We do not have the same platform to do that, but that's awesome. We call our monthly donors. We'll email them too, but calling is just easier because we'll offer on the phone, like, hey, we can update this right here, right now for you. And most people are really receptive, but also like nobody wants to answer their phone these days. So texting, that's nice. It's a nice feature.
And to donors, they really live in a multi-channel environment.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you're reaching out to them, whether that's stewardship or asking them to increase or re-up their donation, we really outreach in any way we can think of so that they catch that. And maybe they saw the direct mail piece, but they're responding online. So really considering that multi-channel environment.
Once you get people in that mode of giving regularly and you make sure that the transaction is nice and steady and that everything's good, do you take those opportunities to either upgrade them or get them to give a separate gift on top of their monthly giving? How do you handle that?
For us, it's really twofold. It's one-time gifts for other programs that Taloha Blue doesn't invest in. So like when we're, raising funds for our treatment and recovery program, or at the end of year giving, that's kind of when we do those, or at our, when we're celebrating, it's a Taloha Blue anniversary, that would be when we do an upsell to that group. But mostly it's like, hey, can you become a fundraiser? How can you get involved even more? Like you're already giving. So
you want to broaden the network, right? Use them to broaden the network.
Yeah. So we kind of use them as our street team.
Okay. Yeah.
Melissa, do you have any stories of a monthly donor who has turned into a major donor or a planned giving donor?
So I can't really speak to any specific examples about that, but I can speak to the overall trends. And we do see monthly giving is a really great place to look for those legacy prospects, because as I mentioned before, people are, by giving monthly, they're telling you that they're committed to your mission and your organization. And so when it comes to making their plans, they make a really great legacy prospect for that.
Right.
In fundraising, you don't know who your major donors are until you ask them or you get familiar with them.
Right.
And I really think that some donors, they give that first donation and then see how they're treated, how the impact is shown. So there could be major donors sitting in your monthly donor pool. And there's some donors too who choose to give at a higher level monthly and would be considered a major donor.
Yeah.
So I would just say, don't be afraid to ask for the upgrade.
Yeah.
We don't want to forget our monthly donors, and they are so committed to our mission that by asking them to upgrade, you're showing them that there still is a need. We still need them. And many times they are grateful for the opportunity. You don't know until you ask. And then also we do include our monthly donors in a lot of our disaster appeals, or if there's a special match offering, However, we don't include them in every single appeal that a one-time donor would receive, just because we want to be conscious that they are giving to us on a monthly basis.
That's great.
So I'm looking through the lens of that nonprofit that's just thinking about starting a monthly giving program, and I'm thinking about that case for support. What's that story that you tell folks that will compel them to make those monthly gifts?
Red Cross champions are some of our most steadfast, loyal, and committed supporters, and they really allow the Red Cross to be there when we're needed most. In those times when it's someone's darkest moment after a disaster, to really be there in that ongoing manner. And monthly giving is affordable, convenient, and it allows for less stress than December for donors because they're not trying to get that donation in by the end of calendar year.
And it's a way to be proactive. I always think of giving to the American Red Cross as traditionally a reactive event, right? Something happens, I feel like I want to help, I give money. And to be given that opportunity to be in a proactive donor role is really wonderful.
Right. And so then when you do see the terrible news of a hurricane or a large national disaster, as a Red Cross champion, I'm already helping.
Yeah.
And if you feel moved, you can do an additional gift as well. But I think so many people just feel powerless when they see these terrible events. And by giving monthly, no matter where you're at financially, you're making an ongoing difference.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point. Kat?
A lot of our supporters have communicated to us that mental health means a lot to them. It's impacted their story in some way or other, whether it's them or a loved one that they know. And it can be hard to feel that unless you're like a mental health profession or you're like working at an organization that's directly, helping the conversation about mental health or providing resources, to feel like you're really doing anything. And so a lot of our supporters have said that they feel like this is their way to kind of support or help the conversation or the resources surrounding what's available for mental health. And that there may be teachers or, work at a coffee shop or a banker. And they're like, this is my way to be a part of this and to be investing in this without necessarily having to change my career. That's a lot of what our supporters share, as well as just To Write Love on Her Arms showed up for them at a pivotal point in their story that was life-saving. And they want to be able to not only offer that opportunity for other people for this resource to still be around, but to just be able to give back, what they were able to. We have a lot of treatment and recovery scholarship recipients who've also then become monthly donors because they were supported during a pivotal moment and during their journey to healing and recovery, and at a time maybe when they couldn't afford it. And so now they're maybe at a place where they can.
Yeah. That idea of paying it forward.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to listeners who want to start up their own monthly giving program based upon what you've learned starting or running your own programs?
I've had a lot of these conversations with people who are thinking of starting a monthly donor program, and it can feel intimidating to like get all the puzzle pieces in place before you actually launch. And we are a little scrappier, but I do think there's value to having a game plan of what's the most actionable, what's the most important, and then what are maybe things down the road, like 2 months after launch, the year after launch, 2 years down the road. How can we have a plan in place to then maybe that allows us to grow or enhance the experience for our monthly donors along the way that isn't prohibiting you from starting? Because it can be these ideas or these things that you want to have on the start are great, but if it's going to stop you from creating something that's going to be so essential to your nonprofit and to your community, right? Like they feel so empowered and important that they're actually like making a difference by giving something so regular and recurring, even if it's $5 or $250 a month.
Yeah.
It's so valuable to your supporters. So that's kind of my advice is, what do you need to actually launch it?
Yeah, I think to start internally. So to really make monthly giving a priority for your organization and to really tell that story that we touched on earlier of in the long term, they have this really high lifetime donor value and they may end up giving more even than a one-time donor.
Yeah.
So really having those case studies, those kind of research talking points to really bring to your board or to bring to the decision makers in your organization to have monthly giving be a priority. And then from an external standpoint, whenever there's a financial ask, having that monthly donation option and even leading with that monthly donation option when it makes sense. And just creating greater awareness across all of your communications that you have a monthly donor program and that it is powerful and it is a preferred way for people to donate to your cause.
I love the monthly donor programs. I am probably on so many organizations' planned giving lists because I'm getting close to that age and I've been giving to them for so long. So we're getting about to the end of our time. Can you share with us, for each of you, tell us where we can find out more about your organizations, more about you, and anything that you want to plug about your organizations?
Yeah, so our website is a great place to learn more about what we do as an organization at Try Love on Our Arms. So the website is twloha.com. You can learn more. You can read the original story about, our interesting name, where it comes from, and just learn more about how we are showing up in different communities as we aim to make it okay to talk about mental health, as well as having affordable resources to get recovery and pursue healing with your mental health struggles.
And thank you. And can I just say really quickly that mental health is important. It is okay to talk about it, and we should talk about it. And I got chills looking at your website.
Oh, yeah, that's what it's for, right? I mean, mental health is something that touches everybody. I mean, we have mental health as a human, as a person, and then our loved ones also have mental health, and struggles look different for everybody, and our journeys along the course of our lifetime are going to look differently. And so just having a safe community is really what it's all about. And for us, a lot of the time we are that first person, that first safe community for our supporters. So, which often then takes them to feeling comfortable to ask for help. I mean, that's so scary. Just being able to even say in a place of like, man, I'm struggling and I need help. Like that is hard there's a lot of barriers to get there.
Yeah.
So we work to eliminate as many barriers as we can.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kat.
Yeah.
And Melissa, the American Red Cross, we can't get by without you. Tell us more about the organization, where we can find out more.
To learn more about the American Red Cross, you can, of course, go to redcross.org to learn more about our life-saving mission and also to become a Red Cross champion yourself, because help can't wait. And if you can't give financially every month, you can also sign up to donate blood or to become a volunteer in your community. And that's all on that website, redcross.org.
Wonderful.
It's a fantastic organization. And I've had so many friends who have been very close to your organization and served on local boards for American Red Cross. So thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
What a great conversation, Rich. I mean, it's all about human connection, and it's about being able to engage with each other on a really honest level and make philanthropy a part of your life, a part of my life, a part of everybody that we help. And you don't have to do it at $1 million a month.
Right. And whether you are a young, scrappy organization like To Write Love on Our Arms, or the American Red Cross, an international organization, they both create these communities with their monthly giving program.
Right.
And that is so important, creating that sense of community, which keeps me engaged with the organization as a donor.
Melissa, Kat, thank you again so much. We really, really appreciate you spending some time with us and talking about monthly giving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
That concludes this episode of the Nonprofit Fundraising Exchange. Thanks to our panel for sharing their insights and expertise. If you'd like to learn more about our panel members or any of the organizations or resources featured in this episode, we will include links in the show notes. If you like this podcast, we would love your help spreading the word. First, please subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app so so you always know when a new episode is released. Second, forward the episodes you like to friends and colleagues or share them on social media. Word of mouth is one of the best ways you can help us reach more nonprofit professionals like yourself. And if you use Apple Podcasts or Audible, please leave us a review. Positive reviews are how many listeners decide whether or not to try out a new podcast. We appreciate your help. For suggestions on topics, guests, or nonprofit organizations you'd like to hear on the podcast, send an email with the subject heading NPFX suggestion to contact@ipmadvancement.com. For back episodes and more resources like white papers, infographics, and blog articles, please visit the free IPM Advancement Nonprofit Resource Library at ipmadvancement.com/resources. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.